Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so honored that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. We have two fantastic guests for you today and a fantastic guest co-host. A little bit later on, I'll be speaking to Rosie Pova about Sunday Rain. And in just a few moments, my co-host, Hannah Pat Oboyski, will be joining me as we speak to Christine Villa about her beautiful picture book, Zubalu. Before we invite Hannah, Pat, and Christine into the studio, we want to let you know we have a brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read, The Power of Positivity, The ABCs of a Pandemic by Ruth Molly. This is a perfect book to guide your little ones through the global coronavirus pandemic and lockdown and learn the ABCs at the same time with the help of a fantasy creature named Orbit. The book offers a positive look at the pandemic of 2020 and 2021 with every letter of the alphabet. It explains how children can protect themselves, their families, and friends from coronavirus and how to manage difficult emotions when confronted with a new and rapidly changing reality. The Power of Positivity, The ABCs of a Pandemic, shows a diversity of characters taking action to manage the effect of the virus. Children are told to practice good hygiene, wear a face mask, be grateful to doctors, teachers, nurses, grocery workers, and to realize the value of the helpers in our pandemic world. The book is a great tool to help children understand that we all have the same fears and that we can overcome them by being creative and empathetic and by staying positive and healthy. It also shows that there are opportunities every day to love, learn, create, and to connect, no matter what the circumstances. We love The Power of Positivity, The ABCs of a Pandemic by Ruth Molly. I'm really excited today. We have a great author coming on the show to celebrate her beautiful picture book, Zubalu. But we also have a guest co-host. You've been hearing me thank the members of my team at every show, and lately we've been thanking two fantastic interns from area universities here in Boston. One of them is here with us tonight. She's Hannah Pat Oboyski, and she is our co-host. Hannah Pat, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, it's exciting. Hannah Pat is a student locally. She's doing a great job. She's just about ready to graduate in just a few weeks. How does that feel?
Oh, it's so many things. Daunting is probably the best word for it.
Well, Hannah Pat has done a lot of work preparing for this show. And can you introduce us to our guest?
Absolutely. Today we are talking to Christine L. Villa and her wonderful book, ZooBooLoo.
Welcome, Christine. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to be with you today. I know Hannah Pat's been excited. Why don't we begin just by having you tell us about ZooBooLoo?
Well, ZooBooLoo it's a story about animals in a zoo, and the name of the zoo is ZooBooLoo. And it starts with the very first page is a page turner, actually, because it talks about how it asks questions like, have you ever thought about what happens once the gates at the zoo are closed at night? Have you ever wondered if the animals get together and are up to no good? At ZooBooLoo, once the sun goes down, strange things happen all the time. So it sets the mood. What's happening? So the kids are excited now, and then they're wondering what's happening. Well, you know, what happens is it starts with a giraffe complaining about something about himself, and then the others started complaining too. So you know how negativity is contagious, and when one starts complaining, the rest of the pack complains too. So they weren't happy with their body parts, and then suddenly the monkey has a brilliant idea. He thinks he has a brilliant idea by suggesting that they have a switcheroo. So he says, come back here tomorrow at 9 p.m., exactly 9 p.m. Why not have a switcheroo? So all of them excitedly agreed. So, whenever I read this part to the kids, I ask them, do you think it's going to be a success? Most of them say no. Some of them say yes. So it's another page turner, and they want to know what's going to happen next. So of course, what's nice about it, the pictures will show how they look, how funny they look, and there's also going to be observers. There's always going to be observers who are going to agree about them whining. There's going to be one was going to say that, why don't you just be happy with yourselves? And in the end, the animals are going to figure out whether they were better off the way they were before, or they want the change. So in the end, it will teach the kids lesson about self-acceptance.
I noticed when I was reading it that at the beginning you talked about how you started off with this page turner. I noticed that it had this very interesting energy where it was a little spooky even. There was eyes in the trees. You don't know what's going to happen. So that was very cool. I'm glad that you underlined that. It seems like you really thought about what it's going to be like to read to kids while writing it. Mm-hmm. Can you say any more about that?
Well, and the thing is, I don't have kids. So I think I just got my idea I'm just picturing my nieces and my nephew, because they're my inspiration, and they're not around me. They're actually in the Philippines. But I have a neighbor who have grandkids, and they were my first audience. So before it was ever illustrated, I read it to them, and when I see their eyes light up, that's when I know it works. And when they ask me more questions, or they're so glued to whatever I'm saying. So I try to make it exciting, like they want to know more about it.
That's really interesting. So that you actually had this picture of the kids listening, and so that idea, that picture of those kids and what would interest them was right there in your mind as you're putting the book together.
Yes, and I like to add, I like to sprinkle humor and wit, and also it helps a lot that the pictures add more dimension to whatever I'm saying, like, because they look funny. Like when I say the elephant looks like a cage, because he wants the stripes of the zebra. So the illustrator being able to show that adds more humor and more to the imagination of the kid.
I'm curious, is there any specific reason you chose the animals that you did, or are the animals inspired by anything?
Actually, I wasn't reading any animal book that time, but my inspiration came from just ordinary people, just people. I make them act like people and talk like people. Because I've been around, we know by nature, human beings want to whine a lot. We want to compare ourselves to others. Like because I have straight hair, I want to have curly hair. And the ones that have curly hair want to have a straight hair, and then we complain. And then the more you complain, the more others want to complain too, because it's contagious. But there's some too who would say, let's stop doing this and just be positive. So I wanna show that side of the human nature that complains, and then later on we look beyond our flaws, and we want to appreciate our own uniqueness, and we want to just make the best of what we have. So I'm thinking of other people. And I think the kid that because after a while, because when people ask me where do you get the inspiration and all, I think all the time when I write something, it ends up being me. That subconsciously there's something about me. Because as a kid, I've always been teased a lot, and I've been bullied by my brother too, that I'm short. I'm shorter than average. So it took a while for me to accept who I am, and to just concentrate on my gifts or my talents and just bring joy to other people, rather than carrying this heavy load that, I'm too short, that I can't do anything or things like that, So that made me think that I want a child to learn that lesson earlier than I did, so they can just be happy with themselves.
And I could have used that book because I'm short myself, and as I'm approaching 100, it seems like I'm losing an inch every year. I just found out I'm 5'6". I used to be much taller.
Now you're my height, Jed.
There you go. Well, it's a good height. I'm adjusting to it. Christine, it's interesting.
Yes.
You've used this expression a couple of times in our interviews so far. Negativity is contagious.
Yes.
After the recent political season, it's hard to argue that. There are a lot of people out there who just seem to want to complain about everything. Why do you think that? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think because they don't want to concentrate on just the good things. You know, we have to look at we have to look at the ordinary as extraordinary. Don't take things for granted. The blessings that we have. Because I've been in another country, in the Philippines, and I've noticed here in America, people I say, why aren't you happy? Why don't you just be happy? Because if you've been to another place, you would just be grateful for whatever little blessings you have. So I'm a kind of person, I'm usually positive, and I don't want to look at the negative side. So maybe that's how it reflected in what I'm writing. So I'm looking at the other people on the side who complain about other things rather than making the most of the situation.
Would you say that you were probably speaking through the hippo then? Because I know the hippo is kind of the voice of reason in the story.
Yes, the hippo was saying, why don't you just be happy? And the hyena said, why don't you just leave them alone? Because he wants everybody to remain the way he is. And when he saw them looking funny, and he said, I've never been so grateful that I can laugh. And the kids love it. And what I like about it is that even if there's a message, the kid can enjoy and laugh with the parents or whoever's reading the story for them, or if they're reading it independently. When they learn a lesson in a non-preachy way. And I know they get it because after I read, I say, okay, who gets the message of the story? And then they raise their hand. And there's this one kid, and she's only 5. And I asked her, so, what do you think is the message? You have to be you. That's what she said. She's so cute. Yeah, and I read it to the Filipinos too. We read it in English and in another version, Filipino. And they were saying to just be contented with yourself. But I'm not against trying to enhancements, because there's always room for improvement. But there are things that we can't change, such as height.
Well, I know when I was in high school, I tried to wear platform shoes, but I only ended up hurting my ankles. Now, Hannah Pat was sharing with me that she learned something by reading ZooBooLoo. Do you want to tell Christine?
Oh, what did you learn? I wanna hear it.
Yeah, I learned today, at 21 years old, that I am scared of crocodiles with long legs. I saw that image on the page, and I wasn't scared of it. It's a cartoon, but I was like, wow, that is an image I did not know that gives me unease.
Yeah, I guess you'll never know what the effect would be. I mean, once you change something about yourself, and then you'll regret, oh, why did I do that?
Yeah, I mean, these animals, they wanted to change parts of themselves, but it's what makes, their iconic image. Crocodile looks like that, and there's nothing else that looks like a crocodile. They do not have long legs.
Actually, I don't know where I got the imagination, because I was actually most of my books, like 90% of my books, were written in a period where I was in a bad place. I was not physically well. I was suffering from an asthma attack because it was a time when we had wildfires over here. And it's not close to Sacramento, but it was a bad situation. The air was bad. And I had a severe back pain that was I had a severe back pain that I had a hard time doing my regular routine. So couldn't find a solution to it because I can't have surgery, it can't be seen in my MRI. But I had sciatica and I was using a walker. So I was very depressed. And one day I just found out that I could write children's book because of this American robins outside my window. And I started taking pictures of them because I like taking pictures. And after a year, when I was sorting out all the pictures, a story formed in my head. And when I wrote it, I didn't know yet how to publish because I'm a self-published author. I didn't know how to publish it yet. So I made it into a DVD form. So I have all the pictures and they're all in DVD form. And then the story came out, right? So when I showed all my friends and they bought some of my DVD, that's when I found my calling that I can write children's books. So I started writing. I kept on writing while the inspiration was pouring in, and ZooBooLoo gave birth. I gave birth to that idea.
Yeah, you seem like you have a lot of creativity inside of you, not just for children's books, but you also published a poetry book, correct?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I started with writing because I write haiku. Haiku is a 3-line poetry, and tanka is a 5-line poetry, and chirita is a 6-line poetry. So I've been writing though because it has instant gratification when an editor accepts my poetry and they're published. And then I compiled all this. Actually, that first poetry book that you're talking about, it's about grief. So I went through grief and it became my outlet. So writing to me is actually an outlet. So it became, I wrote about my grief since the time my late husband was diagnosed with brain cancer until the time I started moving on. So I published that book, and now I'm an editor of Frameless Sky, which is a poetry video journal. It's in video form because I like putting together videos with those effects, and I combine poetry, artwork. I invite an artist to provide the illustrations, and then I invite poets to write poetry for the picture or as a standalone poem. And then I have music, so I invite a featured musician. So I'm the editor of the Frameless Sky poetry journal.
That sounds really fun. That sounds like a great time. Do you think that being a poet also has any influence on how you write as a children's author at all, or are they separate kind of mediums in your head?
I think because when you're right, I think it helps because not because I can rhyme. Well, my poetry don't rhyme, and I don't use rhyming words but it makes you more sensitive. It makes you, because when you write haiku, you try to write at the moment where you think of the extraordinary in ordinary moments, in ordinary things. So when I have that habit of doing that, then I can see little things that matter to children that don't matter to us. So I become more perceptive, more sensitive, more observant, and I use my 5 senses. When you write you will write more effectively when you use your 5 senses. And when I do that, then I open my mind to more ideas for children.
Hannah Pat, we've had a great time speaking to Christine tonight. Did you have a last question that you wanted to ask?
My last question would just be, what's your favorite animal then?
My favorite animal? Ooh, I have so many. Actually, it's a dog.
A dog.
Yeah, my pop. Actually, I don't like dogs before, but ever since I babysat a dog, how do you say it? I babysat a dog. And, I was at one of the Filipino parties, and I saw this dog, and he was so cute and everything. And I said, I don't like dogs, but this dog appeals to me. And the owner said, why don't you babysit him for a few days and see if you like taking care of dogs. And I adored him so much that when he left me, I was depressed. And I started looking for a dog online. I looked for a dog exactly like him. And so it's a Maltese poo.
Ah,
Awesome.
well, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is my baby.
We've had a great time speaking to the author of ZooBooLoo, Christine Villa. Hey, Christine, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, too. You have a good day.
We do want to encourage you to check out ZooBooLoo by Christine Villa. Wonderful, wonderful picture book. We're also wanting you to check out Sunday Rain. Here to tell us all about it is Rosie Pova. Join us on the line right now from the great state of Texas in Dallas. I'm really excited to welcome to the show the author of Sunday Rain. Please welcome Rosie Pova. Rosie, welcome to the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thank you, Jedley. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm excited to have you here. You know, our mission is to help families grow closer together through reading. How can reading Sunday Rain together help families grow closer?
Well, I say whatever your kid is going through, just pull out a picture book and read about that topic. And in my case, for Sunday Rain, I'm sure every child at some point in their lives has been in a situation of being the new kid and having to adjust to a new situation, whether that's starting new school or even, kindergarten or moving to a new neighborhood. And in my case, the story is about this boy, Elliot, who has just moved into a new neighborhood. He's pretty shy. He's introverted bookworm. So he's not sure how to make new friends, but with some encouraging from his mom and also using imaginative play, he's able to reach out and make new friends. So I think that's the conversation parents and educators can have with their kids or students, how to reach out and make new friends. And actually for the other kids on the other side, how to be that new friend and reach out to the new kid. So that's a pretty good conversation to have and use that book because it will give perspective and it will, kids can identify with that character of being the new child with all the emotions that comes with it and dealing with the situation.
Yeah. Rosie and I were having a lovely conversation, and I was sharing with her how I was granted the stage name of Jedley and how that came to be. And I can relate to what you were saying because I can walk out on stage as Jedley and be in front of 3,000 people and feel incredibly comfortable. I can walk into a room as Jedley, and it doesn't matter if it's a group of kindergarten kids or captains of industry. When I'm Jedley, when I'm out there to be alive and loud and do tricks and be fun, that's easy. But for me to go into a group as Jed, just a normal old, almost 100-year-old Jed, it's a little more challenging to be that new kid. That's hard. So I absolutely can relate to the main character of your story.
Yes, that's true. And I can relate too because not even in my childhood only, all the new situations, but as an adult, I immigrated from Bulgaria and I came to a brand new continent, brand new country and had to adjust to, first of all, life here and then the language and then find my own way and become who I wanted to be. So there were a lot of new things for me and first things for me, even as an adult. So that's still relevant.
Yeah, it really is. And I love that Sunday Rain is a great tool that a family can use when they move, when their kids are the new kids and helping those kids navigate those times and find the confidence they need to understand that they are pretty special. There's a lot to love about them, and the kids in this new situation are going to discover how wonderful they are. So, but I also think it's as important, maybe it's even more important for families, the typical family or what used to be the typical family that's living in one area for 10 or 15, 20 years, so they know everybody and everybody feels like family. And to help those kids know that they have the power to really change somebody's life by opening up their arms and welcoming that new kid into the classroom or onto the soccer team or the dance class. That's such a powerful, powerful role that they can play.
Exactly. Yes. Everybody needs some help in adjusting. And so, like I said, both sides can do their part, and the new kid can have a little bit more confidence, being themselves, that they just believe that they can adjust just fine, and having that help from, other kids embracing the new child, that's very important too. And again, my own situation, we just moved. We used to live in a house for like 15 years, and my kids grew up with, all the neighborhood kids. And then we had to move. And even though it was only like a few miles away, it's not in a brand new state or anything like that, but they still had to start new school and be in a new neighborhood and get to know everyone else. So that's definitely an adjustment.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit about your experience immigrating to the United States? Because most folks were born here, and so they don't understand. And I think it's important for us to have a little understanding and empathy for folks who are coming to this nation.
Yes. Well, I was a young adult when I first came to North America. We first lived in Canada for a few years, and then we moved to the United States. So actually changing 2 countries here. I was born and raised in Bulgaria, so English obviously was not my first language. It wasn't even my second language. It was my 4th language. So I still had a lot to catch up on, and, starting a new life, a new family, finding my job here, and just adjusting to the country and the culture. But I've been very happy from the beginning, because of course, coming from, a small country, to the country of, dreams come true, it's easier to adjust.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, did your perception, or did what you thought living in the United States was going to be like, did it match up to the actual experience? Yes, it did, because I've seen a lot of movies, and there are also like this magical land, and it was better, I would say. Definitely a good place to be. Now, when you were growing up in Bulgaria, did you dream of becoming a children's author one day?
Well, I wouldn't say I had that exact dream, but at one point, I remember thinking I wanted to be a journalist, because writing has always been something I loved doing, and I wrote in any language that I knew. So that was my favorite subject in school, literature and writing. That was a passion of mine from early on. I didn't think I'd be an author, like I said, but journalist was pretty close. I wanted to cover stories and write. Then I remember thinking, just wishing to be a flight attendant, because traveling was very limited. We weren't allowed to travel, back then in communist Bulgaria. So, and I wanted to see the world. I wanted to see what's outside of Bulgaria. So that was my dream. I thought maybe if I became, a flight attendant, then I'll get to visit different countries and see different places. But then later on, I, after having kids, I started reading picture books again, and decided that that's something I want to try and do. And once I started, there was no stopping me. It's just that passion just revived itself in me, and that's what I've been doing for 16 plus years now.
That's wonderful. So what you obviously told a wonderful story, kind of autobiographical in Sunday Rain. What other kind of stories are you looking to share with kids?
Stories that inspire them in some way, that just connect and relate and could be helpful in a situation that they're going through. Stories that start a conversation, as you mentioned before, with their parents or their educators, and can relieve some stress or even make them laugh. I want that to have a good book to come back to, not just read once and, forget about, but just to be a dear story that they can revisit.
Awesome. Hey, where can folks go to learn more about Sunday Rain and learn more about Rosie Pova?
Yes, they can visit my website, which is rosiejpova.com. There are a lot of activities that come with my books and more information about me, and also for teachers if they're interested in having me visit their school. There's also information about that.
Awesome. We've had a wonderful time speaking with the author of Sunday Rain, Rosie Pova. Hey, Rosie, thanks so much for being on the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thank you, Jedley. It's been a pleasure.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Prudence Williams-Shipman. She'll be here to celebrate her debut children's picture book. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to thank our guest, Christine Villa. Be sure to check out Zubalu, please. And also Rosie Pova. And we also want you to check out Sunday Rain. I also want to thank my team, starting with my guest co-host today, Hannah Pat Oboyski, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Alexia Brown. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.